Hey everybody, this is David here, aka Chessman, and I got a request to do an introduction to chess video, so that's what I'm doing here today. It's going to be real basic stuff. I'll try to throw in some wisdom as well, but it's going to be stuff that you need to know to play the game of chess, and if there's time, I'll add in some extra stuff. Alright, so the first thing is the board. The board has 64 squares. It's an 8x8 board, and it's divided into ranks and files. If you notice on the side of this board, there are numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there are 8 ranks. And if you notice, there are 8 letters at the bottom: A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. And there are 8 files. And they are marked by a letter. So this square here that's highlighted is E2. This square is F2. This square is E4, and so on and so forth. Takes a little practice, but you'll get the hang of it. Alright, so chess is about having an army and trying to move the pieces in order to try to gain an advantage. And then you build that advantage until you can checkmate your opponent's king. It's like football. Football, they move the men around until they find a way to make a touchdown. So chess is you move your men around until you find a way to make a checkmate. Alright. So before we learn about what a checkmate is, we're going to learn how the pieces move. Okay, first thing, we have these pawns. That's these pieces right here. Each side gets 8 pawns, and they're the least valuable piece on the board. The way a pawn moves is, on its first move, it can move 2 squares or 1 square. So it moves like this. And then everybody gets a turn. So white always goes first and black always goes second. So white went to E4. And it says right here E4, because that's the square it went to. Now, let's say black goes E6. See, that marks it, E6. So black could have gone to E5, but it decided to go to E6. Now it's white's turn again, and white can go to E5. And then it says E5. That's how a pawn moves. Now, pieces can capture each other. The way a pawn captures is diagonally. So let's say it's black's turn, and black moves 1 square. Now, white has the option to capture this pawn, like this. And black has the option to capture this pawn as well. So that's how pawns capture. There's one more move that a pawn has. Well, there's a couple more moves that a pawn has, and I'm going to show you. Okay, so let's say white moves another pawn, and let's say it's black's turn, which it is. While this pawn is here, if black goes 2 squares on the side of this pawn can do a move called en passant, which it takes it as if it only moved 1 square. And it takes it. That's called en passant. But you have to do it immediately. If you make a different move, and then black makes a different move, you can no longer take. Alright, so let's review. Pawns can go one square or 2 squares their first move. It goes 2 squares, and then let's say it's black's turn and black goes 1 square. From now on, white can only move 1 square with this pawn. And pawns cannot go back. They cannot go backwards. They cannot go side to side. They can only go forward. So it goes. Now, if black plays this move, we have the option called en passant, which you can immediately take. Let's say black plays a different move. We take again. Now, there's a special move called pawn promotion. If the pawn ever gets to the 8th rank, remember this is number 8, the 8th rank. If the pawn ever reaches the 8th rank, it gets promoted. So let's say it captures this rook. It gives me an option to promote to a queen, a knight, a rook, or a bishop. Usually you pick queen. So you pick the piece you want, and then that's what it becomes. So you could possibly promote all your pawns to queens and have all 8 pawns become queens plus the queen you have, which equals 9 queens. That's possible. It's unlikely, but possible. So those are all the things a pawn can do. All right. Next, let's look at the knights. These two pieces I'm highlighting are called knights. They're like horses. And knights are the only pieces that can jump over a piece. So the way a knight moves is in an L shape. So it can move like this. And if black moves its knight, it could move here or here. And then you can move it in an L shape again. You can move it in an L shape again. And if you wanted to capture this knight, you could. You just put the piece on top of it and it captures. And this is, again, the only piece that can jump over other pieces. It can jump over these pawns. All the other pieces cannot. These bishops can't. The queen can't. The king can't. All right. So, again, these are called knights, and that's how they move. They move like an L shape. All right. Now let's look at bishops. These pieces that I'm highlighting are bishops. And bishops move diagonally. All right. Let's say we make a pawn move. So I'm making this pawn move to give my bishop room to escape, to develop. So let's say black moves this pawn. Now my bishop moves diagonally. So my bishop could move to this square, this square, this square, this square, or this square in one move. So let's say it moves here. It moved diagonally. Now let's say black also moves his bishop and moves here. Now my bishop could move here, here. If it wanted to capture this pawn, it could. You just go like that. I'll take that move back. So that's how a bishop moves. Okay. Now let's show you how the rooks move. These pieces in the corners are called rooks. And rooks move horizontally and vertically, side to side. So up and down and side to side. So let's say I move this pawn and black does the same. I can now move this rook either here or here. So let's say I move it here. And let's say black does the same. Now I can move this. Now I'm able to move this rook either. I can move it back if I wanted to, or I can move it anywhere along this row. So I can move it all the way here, and this rook can move all the way here if it wants to. Again, if you want to capture something, you just place it on top of something on your opponent's piece, and you can capture it. And then this rook can do the same thing if it wants to. So that's how a rook moves. Again, pieces cannot capture their own color. That is not allowed. You can move back, back. All right. So those are how the rooks move. Okay. So now what's left is the king and the queen. Let's start with the queen. Each side gets one queen, and this piece that I'm highlighting is the queen. So queens can move in all directions. They can move like the bishop, and they can move like the rook. So like right now, the queen can move anywhere diagonally. It can't move through pieces. It can't move through pieces. So right now, it can only move diagonally. So let's say it moves here. And let's say this queen moves here, diagonally. So now this queen can move anywhere's up to here, anywhere's up to here, can move here, 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 anywhere's in those directions. As many squares as away as it can. So let me just move this here, and let's say this one moves here. Now I can move all the way here. Let's say this one moves all the way here. Then I can move it all the way here. So the queen is the most powerful piece because it can move in all directions. All right. So the last piece is the king. That's this piece with a cross on top of its hat. So each side gets one king. And in chess, if you lose the king, you lose the game. So the king is invaluable. And the king can also move in any direction, but it can only move one square at a time. So right now, the only move this king can make is up right here. So let's say this king moves. Now this king can move here, 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 or here. Let's say it moves here. Let's say this king moves here. Now this king can move here, here, here. Actually, it can't move here, and I'll explain. It can't move here, and I'll explain why. It can move here, here. So that's how a king moves. Now, there's one more special move that I need to show you. In chess, there's a move called castle, and this is a way to get your king to safety. Usually at the beginning of the game, you don't want your king in the action. You want it to get to the side in safety. So let me show you. Let's say I move the knight, and let's say black moves this knight. Let's say I move this bishop. Let's say black moves this pawn. Now there's this move called castling, and if you notice, this is I'll just show you what the move is. If you watch the king, I'm going to drag it to the G square, and all of a sudden the rook will hop over the king. And this is castling. This is called castling kingside. Now, you can also castle queenside, which is this side of the board. The side that your queen is on. That's queenside. So, I'll show you how to do that. So, let's say I move this pawn. Say he moves this pawn. Say I move this bishop out. Say he moves this knight. Let's say I move this knight. And then I move this. And then I move this. And I move that. Now, since this is cleared, I can now castle queenside. So you bring this piece to the C square, and automatically the rook hops over the king. And this is called queenside castling. All right. So those are all the ways that the pieces move. And you might want to rewatch the video just to because there is a lot. There's quite a bit to know, but maybe you got it in one shot. Okay. So, okay, there is a rule that I have to tell you about castling though. So let me set it up. Let me see. Okay. You see how this bishop here is attacking along this square? It sees all these squares. Since it's attacking through this space, the king can't castle. It could also be a queen being there. So if I move, queen comes out. Since this queen is eyeing this square, you can't move through castle. You can't move through it because you would lose the king. And if you lose the king, you lose the game. So it's against the rules. And if you're in check, you can't castle as well. So let me show you what check is. Okay. Check is when the king is attacked. So let's say I go here and the queen goes here. The queen is attacking the king. So this is called check. So when the king is attacked like this, the king has to get out of check. So there's 3 ways to get out of check. One is to block the check. Like you could block it with a piece. The second way is to capture the queen. If there was like a pawn here, it could capture the queen, and then the king would no longer be in check. And the third final way is to move out of check. So to move. So you could move here. Actually, you couldn't move there because this bishop's there. So the king can't move here because the bishop is eyeing that square. You can't move into an attack with the king. But the point I was making is the king cannot castle if there's a piece attacking a square in between the king and the rook, and if the king is in check. Now, also another rule is, let me put it on the board again. If the king or the rook moves and then moves back, you can no longer castle. So let's say I move the king. So he moves a piece. I move the king back. Redevelop. Bring the bishop out. Now it looks like I can castle, but I can't because the king moved. The king moved away from this square. Now it's the same if the rook moves. I'll show you. Let's say this pawn goes up. Say we bring the bishop out. Say the rook moves, and then the rook moves back. You cannot castle. So those are all the rules about castling. And so, like I said, castling is a great way to bring your king to the safe side of the board. You want to get the king out of the middle in the opening as soon as you can. There are exceptions. Sometimes you do keep the king in the middle, but it's rare. Okay, so that's all the different ways the pieces move. Okay, now I'm going to tell you about check and checkmate. I've already kind of mentioned what check is, but I need to tell you what checkmate is. Again, the goal of the game is to checkmate your opponent's king. So, say I make this move, so I make that move. Say I make this move, say the pawn makes this move, and then I go here. Okay, checkmate, this is checkmate. This is one way to checkmate. The queen is attacking the king, and there's no way for the king to escape it. There's no way to block it. There's no pieces that can get in the way, and the king can't move. And there's nothing that can capture this queen. So this is checkmate, and it's the end of the game. There are many ways to checkmate your king, your opponent's king. And that's the goal of the game. All right. So, pretty sure that's everything you need to know in order to play a game of chess. Now, some tips. Okay, the way the game of chess kind of goes is you're trying to make moves that put your pieces on good squares. There's many different ways to do this, and in your chess career you will learn many different ways. But what you're trying to do is develop your pieces and put your center pawns in the middle of the board if you can. Now, you don't want to lose material. So, for instance, you're trying to avoid bad moves. You only want to play good moves. So, for instance, if I played, let's say I play this. Okay, something you should know. A bishop is worth more than a pawn. A pawn is worth 1 point. That's the basic value of a pawn. And you have 8 of them. So there's 8 points. A bishop is relatively worth 3 points, or 3 pawns. A knight is also worth 3 points. The rook is worth 5 points. The queen is worth 9. And the king is invaluable because if you lose the king, you lose the game. But it's worth about 3 points in its abilities. Okay, so in this instance, if I took this pawn, it would be a bad move because the pawn would take back, and I lost 3 points of material in exchange for 1 pawn. That would be a bad move. Okay, so maybe I should take this knight. If I took this knight and the pawn took back, the bishop was worth 3 points, that knight is worth 3 points, so that is an even trade. That's the basics. Now, we don't know, like, those are the basic values of the pieces, but depending on where they are on the chessboard, sometimes the bishop would be a little more valuable than the knight. And sometimes the knight is a little bit more valuable than the bishop. So maybe it's not a good idea to trade at all. Maybe you want to bring the bishop back and save it. And wait. This is what you call staying flexible. And waiting for a better opportunity. So the best move might be just bringing the bishop back and not taking anything. So let's say let's say we play b5. Okay, this pawn is attacking the bishop. So if you say castle, this pawn is going to take this bishop, and then you just lost 3 points of material for nothing. So that would be bad. So you have to look, how do I save this bishop? The only move to save the bishop is to go here. Is to go to b3. And that saves the bishop. So that would be a good move. So you're trying to make all good moves, and you're trying to do this as long as you can. And you're waiting for opportunities. You're waiting for your opponent to make a mistake. Sometimes you're starting an attack. Sometimes you're creating an attack with pieces. And sometimes you're creating an attack with pawns. But you never want to make a move where you lose material unless it's to mate your opponent. You can, like that checkmate, you can sacrifice a bunch of material if it checkmates the king, because then you win. All right, so generally what you should do in a game is try different moves. Try to get your pieces developed, and there's different ways to do it. You could move a side pawn and then bring your bishop here or out here. You could try that. You could try bringing it out in the center. Bring your knight towards the center. But like here, it might be a mistake because this knight is attacking this pawn. So when I developed this knight here, I didn't defend this pawn. So now the knight can take this. So the knight took this and gained 1 point of material. And I gained 0. So that would have been a bad move. So maybe what I should do is develop this knight, and now it's defending it. So it would be bad to take this now because you gain a pawn, you gain 1 point, but you lose 3. So, all right. So I'm going to play a game of chess against, and this is what you should do. Either you should play at home with somebody you know, someone who's hopefully not too strong at first, or you should play on chess.com. There are other chess websites as well, but chess.com is really good. One reason is because they have these chess bots. So create an account, it's free, and then go to here and push play bots. And then go to the beginner section and choose the first bot you see. And that's Martin. If you notice, there's a number next to Martin's name. It says 250. That is the rating of the player. 250. So you're going to learn the relativeness of this rating. So 250 is one of the lowest ratings there is. 0 is the lowest. And 3,000 is near the highest. There's a player that's like 3,400 on chess.com. So that's the relativeness of the values. So Martin is fairly easy. So this is how a game of chess works. You play moves and you try to control the center. If you don't know what to do, you try to control the center, these 4 squares. So I put a pawn in the center, and this also helps bring my bishop out if I want. Now, I'm going to develop my piece, because in the beginning you should develop your pieces and you should castle. So I'm developing, but the whole time I'm waiting for an opportunity. I'm seeing if my opponent leaves me any material, or if I can checkmate the king. But most likely, you're not going to be able to checkmate the king right off. Otherwise, chess would be way too easy. So you should try to build up an advantage. So basically, you're trying to make good moves the entire time, improving your position, and trying to get an edge. Maybe in space, trying to get a space advantage. But you're really trying to get a material advantage. So, okay. Now, this knight is attacking this pawn, so I should defend it. So I could defend it by bringing this knight out, or I could defend it by pushing this pawn. I'm going to bring the knight out. Now this pawn is attacking my pawn and the queen and the bishop. Now is this a mistake? We'll see. If I do nothing, the pawn is going to take my bishop. That would be losing 3 points of material. That would be bad. So the question is, how do I take it? Do I take this pawn? I could take it with the pawn, with the bishop, or with the knight. So I have 3 attackers. 1, 2, 3. It only has 2 defenders. 1, 2. So this is a mistake. I should win this. So you can take this with the knight, the bishop, or the pawn. I'm going to take it with the knight. So I took it. I'm up 1 point of material. That may not be enough to win for some people. For some people it is enough to win, but there's no win right now. I just have an advantage. So I have an advantage. So this is what happens. You play chess, you make moves, your opponent makes a mistake, you get an advantage. And then you play the rest of the game with that advantage. You try not to lose it. And then you wait till either you can mate your opponent or until you get enough advantage to where you can mate your opponent. Okay. So I could take this knight and then he would take back with the queen, and that would be an even exchange, which is fine. But I don't want to, because my knight is defended fine. It's defended by the bishop, so if the knight takes me, I can take back. So I would rather either develop or bring my king to safety. So I'm going to bring my king to safety. I'm going to castle. Castling also sort of helps bring your rook, helps develop your rook. Okay, so this is another well, it's not a mistake. It's just a simple trade. So I'm going to take with the bishop. So again, he took my knight, so he gained 3 points of material, but I'm taking back, so I'm getting the 3 points of material back again. And if you notice down at the bottom of the screen, it says +1. This tells me that I'm up +1 material. And in a real game, you won't have this bar telling you who's winning. But if the bar is mostly white, and it'll tell you a score +3 points, this is telling me that I'm up 3 points. So my position is so good that I'm up 3 points worth advantage. It's hard to tell what that means, and it's going to take you a while to understand what these values mean. You're not going to know at first. All right, so now I look at the position. I don't see anything I could capture that's worth it. There's this pawn here, but if I capture it, he's going to capture with the bishop. And that means I would lose 3 points of material in exchange for 1 point of material. That would be bad. So I don't see any attacking moves. So that means I should keep I got to either move a pawn or a piece. I don't see this bishop in the game yet, so I'm going to try to get it out. So I'm going to move this piece. And why not attack? I'm going to move it in the center. I attacked this pawn, so I could take it, and I think that's what I'm going to do. Just because. Now, you could also just keep it defended. This knight is defending it. You could move this pawn to defend it. So there's multiple good moves. I want open lines, so I'm deciding to take. And now I just see an opportunity. This bishop is being attacked by my pawn. My pawn's worth 1 point. This bishop's worth 3. Now he can take back, but that's a win for me. So I'm going to take it. So now I'm up 5 points of material, and the computer here says I'm really up 8. It means I'm up the 5 points of material plus my position is worth another 3 points, equaling about 8.5 points. Okay, I see another opportunity. This bishop is here attacking this rook. So I can take it. The rook is worth 5 points, my bishop's worth 3, but I don't see a way for black to take my bishop if I take it. So it looks like I'll be up a straight rook, which is 5 points. So I'm going to take it. Sometimes you need to watch for counterattacks. Like if this bishop would have gone here, that's a counterattack, but it doesn't work because I can just take the bishop. And then I'd be up even more material. Okay. Now, okay. It says I'm up 10 points of material. So to win a game, you need to be up about 2 points of material or greater. And then one way you can play the game is to try to trade down material until your pawn can turn into a queen by going to the edge of the board. And then you mate the opposing king with your queen and your king. Or you can make 2 queens and do that, and it's a lot easier. So we'll see how this game goes. Okay. I'm looking for a way to increase my advantage, but I don't see it. Like I don't see another piece I can take. So I'm going, let's see. Actually, I do. Well, I'm going to play bishop to c6 because it attacks the king and attacks his pawn. Now, he could block, and then I'll probably take it and then the queen will take back, and that will be an equal exchange of 3 points of material each. But the thing is, I would still be up 10 points of material, so I should win the game. I just need to convert. And this is the process of converting. Now, you could decide not to do that and just keep your piece on the board and wait for your opponent to make a mistake. So let's do that. I'm going to bring my bishop back here. Now, this may cause me to lose this pawn, but it's still only 1 point of material, so I'm willing to do that. So I'm going to bring this back, and I'm going to wait to see if my opponent will make another mistake. Okay, he didn't make a mistake, so now I got to come up with another move. I like just moving my rook over, so I'm going to do that. So I'm just making moves, waiting for my opponent to mess up. Okay. My opponent messed up. It looked like that pawn was for free, but I can go check the king. Now remember, if a king is in check, it has to either move out of the way or capture the piece or block it. Now, while it's doing that, this queen is unprotected. And you have to envision this. You're not going to be able to make moves on the board and take them back. So you have to envision this. So if this bishop goes here, this king or the rook has to capture it, or the king has to move out of the way, and then this queen can take this queen. This is the first step into the realm of calculation. This is a quick calculation, and it's an opportunity. There may be times in your life where there's opportunities where you gotta calculate in order to take advantage of it. And if you do, you may get some money out of it. You may get a present. Who knows? All right. So I don't see any problems. So I'm checking the king. I'm giving up 3 points of material in order to gain 9. So I gained the queen, which is 9 points of material. So now I'm up 15 points of material. So I'm constantly getting bigger advantages, but I still don't see how to mate the king. So the game continues. So now I got to find another move. A move to improve my position if I can, but also a move just to wait to see if black will make another mistake. All right. So I'm just going to check the king. Now, I think I'm going to sacrifice this bishop. What that means is, since I'm up so much material, I'm going to take this pawn. If the pawn takes back, I'll take it with my knight. So I will lose 3 points of material, but I'll gain 2 points of material. So to make the game simpler, I'm going to drop one point of material. Now I just got to decide, am I going to do it with... I believe I'm going to do it with the bishop. So I'm taking this. The best move is for black to take, and then I'm going to take with the knight. Now, this is a mistake. Now, this is called a fork. So what is a fork? A fork is when a piece attacks 2 or more pieces at the same time. So this rook is here and this king is here. If I move this queen here, it will attack this rook and attack this king. Since the king will be in check, the king has to move, or something has to get in the way. But there is no way for black to get out of check and not lose this rook. So this is called a tactic. So when you're playing chess, you're looking to see if there's free material to take. You're also looking for tactics and positional play. And yeah, so I'm attacking the king and the rook. The rook defends the check by placing in front of it, but it's unprotected, so I'm going to take it. Now I still don't see checkmate. Actually, I do. Okay. I have checkmate in 2, but I don't want to do it because you're probably not going to spot these at first. So I want to show you the way you should do it at first. If you don't see, okay, so I could go here, check, and if you calculate, the king has one move, and that's to go here, and then I can move the queen here, and that would put the king in check, and it can't move out of the way. This queen would guard this square, and this square. The king's here, so it would be attacking it, and it's defended by the knight. That would be game over. But I want to show you the way you're probably going to have to do checkmates for a while, and that's with doubling up. So I'm just going to keep improving. So I see how I can win this bishop, and it's with another fork. So I'm going to go here. It attacks the king and the bishop. The king will have to move, and I can take the bishop. So I'm going to take the bishop. And now I'm attacking this knight. Let's see if the knight moves. The knight doesn't move. Let's see. So he's attacking my knight. I'm also attacking his knight. So it's an even exchange. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to let him take my knight, but I take his knight. And what's great is I'm now attacking these pawns. So I can also take these pawns. So I will take this one. And now I'm attacking this pawn. And I will take this one. Now the king's in check. It has to move. And I'll take this pawn. Now, what you can either use the rook or get another queen. I'm just going to show you how to get another queen. So I'm going to put a lot of strategy is going to involve getting another queen. So I'm just going to push this pawn up. And now I got another queen. Now I'm going to try to take this pawn. And he lets me, so I'm going to take the pawn. Now you got to try. So the easiest way to mate your opponent is with two queens. And you do this by stair stepping. So what you're trying to do is get this king to the end of the board, either here, here, or here. I'm going to try to get it to go to this direction. So I'm going to simply move the queen here. Actually, that would be stalemate. Okay, I got to tell you the rules about stalemate. Stalemate means it's a draw. A draw means it's a tie. A tie is when nobody wins and nobody loses. It's a tie and the game is over. If black cannot move and it's not in check, then it's a tie. So if I went here, this rook cuts off these squares, this queen cuts off these squares, and this queen would cut off these squares. So the king would be stuck and cannot move, and that would be a draw. Even though I'm up 2 queens, 2 rooks, and a bunch of pawns, it would be a tie. So sometimes what you should do in these situations is just keep checking the king. Because if the king is in check, it can't be and that happened to be checkmate. Okay. All right, so that's how you checkmate. Now, I'm going to go to the analysis board because I want to show you what I was trying to show you. Just get rid of all these. Just get rid of all these pieces. Oops. Whoops. Hang on a second. Okay. I want the black side to have a king, and I want white side to have 2 rooks, and it has to have a king. Okay. Okay. So in this situation, the easiest way to checkmate the king is with the stepping ladder. And what this is you either have to have 2 rooks, 2 queens, or a rook and a queen. So the hardest is with 2 rooks. So I'm going to show you how to do it with 2 rooks. All right, in this situation, you're trying to push the king back to this rank, and then checkmate him. So what you do is you cut off the king, and you do this by placing your rook here. This cuts the king off. It cannot go here because that would be check. So let's say it moves here. You now take your next rook and you step ladder it, and you check it again. The king can't go to any of these squares, and it can't stay here, so it has to move towards the back. Now let's say the king moves towards the rooks. So let's say you check it again, and now you go here. Now you want to go here, but if you went here, the king would just take. So what you do is you move this rook all the way to the end. Now let's say the king goes here. All right, you move this rook all the way over here just to save the rook. And let's say the king tries to go back. You now check him again, and then it goes back, and then that's mate. Again, mate is when the king is in check and it can't get out of it. Okay, now I'm kind of an impatient person, so I kind of want to show you, okay, something more advanced. So you can, let me put up a new position. So what you should do is when you play a game of chess, the basic outline of the strategy is to gain advantages until you can mate your king, mate the opponent's king. Most likely in most of your games, you're not going to find the quickest mate. What you're going to have to do is get a queen, 2 queens, 2 rooks, or a queen and a rook. But I do want you to know you can mate with a rook and king versus king, and you can mate with a queen and king versus king. Those are 2 of the simple mates that you're going to have to know. So I just feel like showing you it now, and that's where I'm going to end. So let's say black has just a king, white has a king and a rook. So this way, if you're in a position and you can trade down to where you have a king and rook against a king, you'll know how to win. All right. So just like in the previous example, we're trying to get the king to the back wall and then mate him. So the king is going to try to not let that happen. So let's say it's white's move. First, let's just get the rook to the end, to the edge. Let's say the king moves. Now we're going to cut the king off by going here. Now the king cannot move away from the wall. So it doesn't want to move back because it would be closer to the edge, which means closer to mate. So it's going to try to attack the rook. So now you got to bring the king in. You need the help of the king. So you bring it in. Now the king is going to attack this rook. We don't want to lose the rook, so we swing it over to the end here. Now the king's going to try to come back to chase after the rook. So we move the king to center. What we're trying to do is get the king to line up here so we can check it with the rook and force the king to go back. If the king goes here, this king covers these three squares, so the king can't come forward. So we can check the king, and it has to go back. See, it shows you the places the king can go. It has to go back. So let's say it goes back. Now we bring the king in again. So the best move is to bring the king here and not here, but it doesn't really matter. So let me show you. If we bring the king here, again, the king is going to try to avoid mate. So it's going to try to avoid going back as long as it can. It's going to try to chase after this rook because maybe it'll win it. So the king moves and then we follow it. And we follow it. And we follow it. Now, what we need is to waste a move, because if it was our move right now, we would check the king. But since it's not, we need to move the rook. So we move. So this king, it's the king's move. It attacks the rook. We're going to move it all the way to the end, and now it's lined up. It's going to line up because if the king goes here, we check it and we get it closer to the back rank. So it's not going to do that. It's going to go here. So now we follow it. But now it has no choice. It either has to go back. If it goes back, then we just cut it off again. If it doesn't, it has to come here, and then we check it. And then it goes back. And then this is why it doesn't really matter, but it's a little better if we go here, because now if the king goes here, we can check it. So the only option is for black to go this way. So we just follow it. And then we move the rook. And actually, I was wrong, because now the king goes here, but we need the king to go here. So we move the rook to waste a move. Now the king's going to try to avoid mate, so it goes this way. We go here. Now again, the king could move back, but then we would just cut it off. So instead it's going to try to fight as long as possible and go this way. And so we check it. And now if it moves back, then we go here. Because if it moves here, then we give checkmate. So it's going to move here. We follow it. And then it has no choice but to go here, and then that's checkmate. So that's how you checkmate with a rook and king versus king. And you can do the same thing with the queen. And just for practice, I'll show you how to do it with a queen. All right, so it's the same thing with the queen. All right, so now the difference is the king can't attack the queen. So if we go here to cut the king off, like if it was a rook, the king would attack. But since it's a queen, it can't. So it has to go this way. So now we bring the king in. So the king's going to try to avoid being checkmated. So if we go here, then we just check it and force it to go back. So it's going to try to resist that. So it goes there, we follow it. It can't go here anymore because the queen guards that square. So it has to go back. And then we check it. Then the king has to go back, and then we follow it. King goes this way. Now we can waste a move by going back. That way, if the king goes this way, we check it like before. So it's going to go this way. And basically, we're forcing it to come back. Now it's lined up. We give it another check. It goes back. We follow it. It goes this way. Follow it. It goes this way. We want the king to come back. But if we go here, like if we made a mistake and went here, it would just go here and we would have to follow it again. So we don't want to do that. What we want to do is waste a move with the queen. Just move it once. Now the king has to go back here, and now we can check it. Now the difference with the rook and the queen, with the queen, now we want to face it here, because now whichever way it goes, if it goes here, we can just checkmate here. If it goes here, we can just checkmate it here. With the rook, we have to checkmate it here. So it takes longer with the rook to give checkmate. So if it moves here, it's checkmate. Now, just to let you know, you can mate with a queen and king. You can mate with a rook and king. You can mate with a knight and a bishop. And you can mate with two bishops. The knight and bishop and the two bishops are a much more advanced way to mate, and you're unlikely to ever see it in your games, so I'm not going to cover those today. I might do it in a later video in advanced stuff. But it's pretty much everything you need to know and stuff that will get you on the right foot. Again, when you're playing your games, try to just make moves that don't lose anything. That's my advice to you. So before we get into openings, just try out different moves. Try to find ways to develop your pieces. Try to find ways to just bring your pieces out so it's more likely that your opponent will leave something hanging. When I say something hanging, that means leaving a piece open to be taken. You got to do your math. If you capture something, can they capture back? Are you winning any material? And then if you're winning material, then can you win even more material? Or do you want to just play safe and just be happy you're up material, up in advantage, and just keep playing the game? Just move pieces around that look good. And you'll win some games, you'll lose some games, and you'll learn from your mistakes. Like at first, you may not see things being attacked that are, things that are being defended that are. It takes practice. What you should do is play bots. So again, I'll go to play bots. And you have on chess.com, you have an option. If you click this little arrow, you can play with no help of any kind. You can play with friendly, which means you got hints and takebacks. If you make a big mistake, you can take it back. And there's assisted mode. Assisted mode brings you this bar to tell you who's winning and tells you the top 5 moves that are on the board. And you could just at first play those top moves till you get the hang of it. Some people want help, some people don't, and they want to learn on themselves. I think you should do a bit of both. Like the arrows might give you an idea of different ways to develop your pieces, or you can try to come up with different ways to develop your pieces on your own. But basically, again, you're developing your pieces, and then you're waiting for your opponent to make a mistake. You're trying to put your pieces in good squares, so hopefully they're more likely to capitalize on opportunities. And chess is a lot like life. You play moves until you see an opportunity, and then you take advantage of that opportunity. Like life. You do regular moves. You get up, you eat, you take a shower, you go to the bathroom, you get dressed, you brush your teeth. You do all these things every day, and then some days there's opportunities. Maybe something you learn at school, or maybe you get a job, or maybe you go to college. Who knows? A lot of times it's hard to find opportunities, but every once in a while an opportunity arises and you can take advantage of it. That's like chess, that's like life. How you play chess is how you're going to play life. How you play life is how you should play chess. So, you're new to chess. If you're doing a new job, you would be careful. You wouldn't go full ahead right off. You would watch other people. You would take notes. You would see what good moves are at the job. You would take time to learn the job before you go faster. So you should do the same thing with chess. Try different things. It is just a game, so if you make mistakes, it's okay. You want to try to get all your mistakes out on a chessboard so you have less mistakes in life. That's the goal. If what you should do is watch many more videos and read many different chess books. Try to get as much wisdom as you can. You can watch my videos. Practice against the bots is my advice. And just have fun. Have fun being able to control an army at your fingertips and sending in your army on missions, and just enjoy the feeling when you capture something, when you're just waiting for opponent to mess up. Because chess is a grown-up game. If nobody messes up, it's a tie. So, in just like in life, there's a greater power out in life that makes things happen. Some people call it God, and I don't know what else it's called. But there's a greater force out there that causes stuff to happen. And we need that. In chess, it's the opponent. The opponent makes moves, and that affects your life. It affects your game. And you wait to see what life will give you. Will it give you money? Will it give you education? Will it give you friends? Will it give you an interesting book to read? Will it give you water? Maybe you should drink more water. Will it give you good ideas? Maybe you should work out. I don't know. I'm still searching for opportunities in life myself. So that's all I have for you today. I did the best I could. It's always a little difficult showing people how to play chess at first. There's a lot to cover. I hope it's not too overwhelming. You might have to watch the video over and over. There are other videos on the internet about how to play chess, so you might want to watch those as well. Get more than one person's opinion. But I think I did the best I could, and I'm sure I'll have more videos on how to help you with your chess. And you can watch me on my journey as I get better at chess. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you have a wonderful life. I hope you look for opportunities in your life and on the chessboard, and hope you can see how those two things correlate. That's one reason why I love chess, is because whenever I can't figure out how to take advantage of an opportunity in life, I try to look on the chessboard. How can I take opportunities on the chessboard? And if I can't figure out how to take advantage of an opportunity on the chessboard, I go back to life. How can I take advantage of an opportunity in life? So I do that all the time. I'm thinking about that all the time. So that's it. I hope you have a great one. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. Trying for a Hail Mary and trying to get 1,000 subscribers by Christmas probably won't happen, but it's a goal. So I hope you have great holidays and enjoy your day, and yeah, yada yada yada. See ya.